Hello, I'm Pastor Al, and this is Art of the Christian Ninja's Week in Review, a program meant to inform, inspire, and start conversations by presenting some of the more interesting, challenging, helpful, and weird things I've found on the internet lately. I'm glad you're listening. Alright everyone, let's get started by seeing what's going on in the news this week. The Financial Post had a really interesting article about how workers are quitting from McDonald's because of how complicated it is to work there now. I like McDonald's, I have for a long time. I know from experience what it's like to work in the service industry, and it's hard, especially when you get stuck with a lazy employee or a grumpy customer, but I had no idea how ordering my McChicken off of the big computer screen was creating such stress for everybody. But when you think about it, in such a short period of time, they've added lots of weird new menu items, coffee machines, automated kiosks, ordering from your phone, getting it in the parking lot, delivery with Uber. Who knows what else is going on behind the scenes? It's hard enough to deal with the pressure of fast food, but the computerizing of McD's is really messing up the employees. They're handling more tasks with more technology, all expected at greater speeds, and all without raises. And it's stressing them out so bad that they're quitting in droves. So I guess for me, the lesson here is that we should all be a little nicer to the service people that we see, show a little patience. Albert Mohler just did a really interesting evaluation of an article he found in the New York Times called The Cult of Convenience. And it's about our demand for everything to be quick and easy. And it's having a negative effect on those we expect to serve us. After reading this, I honestly go back to what I thought before, where I think it should be mandated that everyone take a turn behind a till or doing customer service for at least 6 months, because we need to change some perspectives. I worked it. I think everybody should work it. So my question to you is this. Have you ever worked in the service industry? How did it change your perspective of the people that work behind the counter? And what do you think of all this technological improvement at McD's? All right. Let's move from talking about a burger joint to an article in Vice magazine that shows the moral insanity that's going on behind a full-fledged animal rights activist. Now, before I start that, I want you to know that I have friends, and I worship with people who are both vegetarians and those who are animal farmers. I've eaten veggies with vegans and burgers with cattle farmers, and we've had lots of talks about how to care for one another and our planet and the animals in a biblically God-honoring way and not let our passions or our opinions get out of control. I wanted to share some of the quotes from this interview because I want you to see the kind of mindset that some people have out there. Not to mock them, or at least maybe not only to mock them, but to try to understand them. So the interviewer at one point asked this. He said, "Do you think the life of an animal is just as important as a human's life?" The animal activist answered this way. He said, "Honestly, there's no easy answer here. You have to factor a lot in. Is the life of a terrible person worth more than your pet dog? On the most basic level, a human life is not worth more than an animal's life, but in the end, it's much more complicated than that." True enough, but holy moly. Next came this question. I couldn't pass it up. I have to read it to you. He said, "If you could save only one, would you save the life of a chicken or a baby?" His answer was this. "That's an impossible question to answer. I guess my heart would tell me to save the baby because it resembles me and I can relate to it, but I would do everything in my power to save both, and if I couldn't save both, it would haunt me for the rest of my life." Man. There are a lot more questions in this article, but I'll leave those to you to read. I was honestly amazed that this person would be so candid with their answers, but it was really scary to see where their thinking lies. Yes, mistreatment of animals is unethical. Cruelty towards animals, even animals raised to be food, is morally wrong. It shows a person's heart and their priorities are really messed up when they hurt animals. But to equate the life of a baby to that of a chicken or a dog is not only unbiblical, but tragically unethical. We got to remember that as Christians, we understand that God created everything for himself to bring glory to him in Jesus, and then he created us to be stewards of that creation. This world is a gift to us. We're supposed to take care of it in his name. But If you believe that humans are a scourge to the planet, that Mother Earth would be better off without us, then you're not going to see it that way. You're going to see humanity as a virus, not as a steward of a great gift. So I'm just curious here. How do you talk to your vegan or your vegetarian or your carnivorous friends about these sorts of subjects? Has it ever been a dividing line in your church or in your friendships? Let me know in the comments. Now, let's see what's happening on Netflix. I just finished an excellent new documentary on there called Take Your Pills, which is all about the rise of amphetamines like Adderall, Ritalin, and Vyvanse. This has affected everyone: children, teens, college students, moms, professionals in business and sport. In fact, adults take these more than kids these days. And I'm not simply talking about, treating ADHD, but the use of them as a performance enhancer. That's what this documentary was all about. It's about raising what we call our human capital value, or what they called our human capital value, or how much work we're able to produce as an individual. This world we live in is not only hyper-competitive for a certain position, but also endlessly competitive. It's not just about reaching a goal anymore, but becoming this limitless, work-producing, super-creative machine. And the thing is, these pills work. Hyper-focus, tons of energy, superhuman concentration, all available in a pill. But there's some huge costs, both physically and spiritually. This documentary hit me personally for a lot of reasons, but probably mostly because taking these sorts of performance-enhancing drugs is tempting for me. Like many of you, I'm really tired on Sundays, but unlike many of you, I'm the one giving the sermon, and sometimes leading the worship, and dealing with the computer problems, and answering the questions, and doing the prayer meeting, and counseling afterward. It's really tempting for me to want to jack myself up on Sundays. As a Baptist pastor, I kind of live my life on the edge of being fired pretty much every week. All it takes is one or two controversial sermons, a little too much drama, a couple missed visits, maybe someone leaving for whatever reason, throw in a little gossip and some false accusations, and suddenly there are rumblings of maybe finding a pastor who might do better. And if you're in a small church like me, all it takes is the influence of a few people, a quick vote, and boom, you're out. So it's really tempting for me to try to enhance my performance so that I'm the perfect pastor every week, every day. I've had a few sermons lately that I haven't felt good about, and I've really started to consider what I could do. I remember that during a really bad time a few years ago, I started pounding 5-hour energy drinks, and it really helped me get through the tough days. I had bottles and bottles of them lying around so I could just get through a Sunday service, just get through a church meeting. Plus, I want to be awesome at what I'm doing. I want to be able to get up early, study hard, be awake for my counseling sessions, do my podcast, have lots of energy and focus for my health, my kids, my wife, the visits, my friends, all of it. And very often, I don't feel like I have enough in the tank for even 15% of that. I've had to work so hard to try to be okay with who I am, not lean on those 5-hour energies. I've had to ask myself some really tough questions like, what's the end goal of my life? Who am I trying to please? Am I okay with my limitations? Am I okay with who God made me to be? And sometimes that answer is no. And it's really tempting to go elsewhere to try to find out how I can be better. A couple of warnings here. There are some swear words in this video, but the bigger warning is that this video gives a lot of temptation towards wanting to use this stuff. Part of the documentary feels like an ad for why this stuff is so great, but stick through it to the end and hopefully you'll be able to see why it's a problem. So my question for you here is this. Do you relate with anything I've been saying? Have you been tempted in the same way? Do you have any experience with drugs like Adderall or Ritalin? And what is that experience? Let's move now into the library and talk about some books. This week's book is The Hidden Life of Prayer by David McIntyre. Written in 1919, this is a classic book on prayer, unlike anything I've ever read before. It's short, it's only 73 pages, but it's inspiring and so practical. In 8 concise chapters, McIntyre breaks down the basics of prayer, where some of our struggles come from, and how to overcome them. I read it because it was recommended and quoted in so many other books that I was reading, and I'm so glad I did. I want to read you something near the beginning of the book that sort of describes where a lot of people's prayer lives are at, and I know it does for mine. It says this: "Without the support of the Holy Spirit, prayer becomes a matter of incredible difficulty. As for my heart," said one who was deeply excised with this engagement, "when I go to pray, I find it so loath to go to God, and when it is with Him, so loath to stay with Him that many times I'm forced in my prayers. First, I beg of God that He would take my heart and set it on Christ Himself, and when it's there, that He would keep it there. But many times I don't know what to pray for. I'm so blind, nor how to pray. I'm so ignorant. Only, blessed be grace, the Spirit helps us in our infirmities." That really touched me. So if you're struggling with the motivation, the reasons, or the practical aspects of prayer, go to Monergism, download this free book, and give it a read. Now, to close off, I want to dip our toes into the wild and wonderful pool of confusion that is social media. I stumbled across an interesting video by a YouTube channel called Soul Pancake, where a man named Zach Anner, who has his own really popular YouTube channel, goes from place to place experiencing different religious beliefs. Except in this case, he heads into what they call an atheist church. Give this a listen.
There is no God! That's something I usually only exclaim when I'm out of ice cream or there's not a movie I can watch on Netflix. But atheism is a very important belief system in this country. And today we're going to meet one from Los Angeles. Her name's Sarah, and she actually started something called the Sunday Assembly, where a bunch of atheists all get together with their families on Sunday mornings, and there's singing and food and community. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Kind of like a church for atheists. So let's go see what this is all about. And we're going to have a little faith in people who don't believe in God.
It's an interesting little look at how a place like this works and why it exists. And it's amazing to me that people have this deep desire for meaning and purpose and community and affirmation, but such a refusal to come to God or His church. I'd love to hear your take on this in the comments. And that's the end of the show. My closing question to you is this: what is your favorite way of listening to podcasts? Do you use your phone in the car? Do you go straight to the website and listen? Or do you only listen on YouTube? What's your favorite way of listening to podcasts? Leave your answer in the comments and help me out, because I'm trying to figure out where to put these things. Just a reminder that all the links to these stories can be found on my blog, and if you come across any other topics or interesting news items, send them along to me. If you like this episode and appreciate what I'm doing on Art of the Christian Ninja, please hit the like, the subscribe, and the share buttons, and pass this on to your friends.